for joining us today and welcome to my sewing room. There are many special occasions to celebrate in life, and actually one of the most special occasions is the special show that we have for you today that I have really been looking forward to. This is the wedding show today. We'll just celebrate the wedding show with your sewing machine and some of the most wonderful and beautiful ideas and fabrics. There are actually three different types of wedding dresses, as I see them. One would be the Victorian type of wedding dress, very, very old-fashioned, turn of the century. Another would be the very modern type of wedding dress with the satiny fabrics and lots of motifs of lace, maybe some pearls and sequins. And then I think a very special kind of wedding dress would be a combination of the three. And those three types of wedding dresses I'm going to share with you today. The first type of wedding dress I'd like to share with you is what I call the Victorian wedding dress. You see the wonderful big ruffles. It has a high collar on the neckline, very similar to the turn of the century. Lovely laces zigzag together with ribbons in the bodice. A beautiful ruffle with all kinds of lovely lace insertions and faggoting. And in this case, a little Swiss embroidered trim that has even some green and pink and blue trim in it and a little bit of pink ribbon. As we go on down the wedding dress, down toward the skirt, which just has a chapel-length train, I think you will find the ruffles are very pretty also. The ruffles start at the top with faggoting with beading run through, and then more of the Swiss hand looms, faggoting, lace insertion, French lace insertion, and edging. And actually this dress has three ruffles, not one but three, and ends in a chapel train. May I share with you what I think is a very pretty wedding attendance dress? I'd like to pull this skirt out and show you. This this silk batiste dress is simply a scoop neck with covered buttons down the front and pretty tucks on it. But the skirt is so unusual on this dress. The skirt is almost a fan shape. If you can look at the bottom here, the fans fan out to the bottom. There is dotted Swiss fabric, organdy, lace, even a little bit of ribbon is zigzagged down right in the middle of the pretty lace fans. I think that's a lovely way for your wedding attendants to look. Over here is a traditional wedding gown, a straight wedding gown, which certainly seems to be very popular now. And as a matter of fact, this wedding gown is made out of very traditional materials. The bridal satin, it has lovely motifs that have been zigzagged all over the bodice, on the sleeves. The dress is a straight gown which flares out at the bottom in a ruffle, and then the chapel-length train also has some other wonderful motifs either stitched on it, or you know what, you can also just use a glue gun and glue those motifs down too. So you see we have several different varieties of wedding dresses all right here, and actually I have another wedding dress to share with you during the show. So let's go on to the next segment and see the next lovely wedding dress and some wonderful techniques for making these dresses that I would like to share with you. I have asked my daughter Joanna to model this wedding dress I designed, which really I believe is a combination of the Victorian look and the contemporary look. We have used Swiss batiste for the dress, and it is a pattern which currently is available in the current pattern books. The dress is Swiss batiste. However, I've used traditional bridal type motifs, which actually, can I tell you a secret, it's glued onto the top. And then there are the traditional French laces. There is a piece all the way across the front of the traditional French laces butted together. There are then two more of the bridal motifs right here at the bottom. And as I travel down the skirt of the dress, there is a wonderful ruffle done out of the Swiss batiste with a really wide, beautiful French lace at the bottom, and it goes around into a chapel train. Now, lean over just a hair, Joanna, show them this beautiful veil, which, by the way, you can spend up to $150. Let me get this veil and show you how this is made. You can spend up to $150 to $500 or $600 on a veil. This one took about 15 minutes to make and cost about $25 because I had to purchase the little flowers and the little pearls. Here's how you make that veil. You use the really wide, 120-inch wide illusion. Then I fold over about, depending on how high I want the poof to be, in this case it was about 6 inches tall, I guess, maybe 5. Anyway, I fold it over, and then, depending on how tall I want the poof to be, and then you just simply gather it. Or you could, of course, run a gathering thread. And with the folded over piece, I simply gather it up all the way across, Let me see if I can kind of make this in a hurry. Anyway, you get the idea. Then I come in the back of this little round purchase thing, a little hat palo, and then I put it in there, and you can either stitch it or glue it in. Now that is how easy. And Joanna, if you'll take that veil off, I want to show them how easy it is to make another type veil, which some brides like. Okay, let me put this one right here. Now this veil has a little blusher, which you can either choose to use over the face, if you like to use the blusher over the face, or it's really pretty just to pull the blusher back. While I've got this veil over her face, so let me show you. Do you see this little line? It looks like little ribbons across this veil. Well, it is a ribbon. And all you do to put this little ribbon look, which one of the designers who charges about $15,000 a dress uses this on all of her veils. This is simply ribbon from the store, polyester ribbon, laid down on the edge, the trimmed edge of this netting, and stitched on, one stitch around. Whether you use the blusher on the face or off the face, in this veil, you simply gather the veil. Let me get the netting. Here we go. This time, you just put it however much I want for a blusher, is how much I leave out, and then I just gather it up and put it in the little circular piece right here on her head with half of it, and I glue it about right here or stitch it. Then it can go to the back if you do not want the blusher to be over the face, or it can come to the front if you want the blusher on the face. Now I'm going to go over to the boards here and show you a little bit about what to do if you want to cut out motifs and make something very lovely. You see, here's the traditional bridal lace, and I can cut out motifs as I have done here and use them on a number of places, including to go on the bridal shoes. Here is another piece of bridal lace, and here's another way of cutting out the motifs, either little tiny or larger, that I can use in a number of places on the dress. All right, here is an example. If I've cut out the motifs, I pin them on the bridal edging, in this case making a ruffle. Do you see how you can take some of the motifs and pin them on the bottom and then scatter them out on the satin? On this particular piece, I have taken bridal motifs, and as you can see, I zigzagged in green so you can see, but you zigzag them on, and then you go in and cut it away to make it peekaboo. When you're working with motifs and netting especially, if you were to put motifs on netting, you need a water-soluble stabilizer which will wash away on the bottom, then the netting, and then you can pin your motifs on there. Let's go over to the sewing machine, and I'll share with you just a couple of ideas. As I said, more and more people are using a glue gun, to tell you the truth, and gluing these motifs on. However, certainly I would think that some of you might want to sew. All right, I have a motif here on a piece of satin, and all in the world you do is simply go around the different little flowers. All right, let me lower this and we'll turn and go around the other direction. I'm simply zigzagging, pulling it around and zigzagging all the way around the flowers. I don't even have to do too much turning, because actually it's pretty easy to get around this motif if you want to know the truth. So I can just zigzag it on, or I could just glue it on. Now that's as simple as it is to put motifs. Okay? One more thing I promised to show you. More and more brides that I know are decorating their shoes, and those motifs are very, very easy to use. You can cut out whatever motif you want and simply put them on the shoe. You can use a potasse wash shoe or a satin shoe, and you can cut it and trim it and glue it on. Take a knife if you want to and shove that right in between the shoe and the sole, or you could just put just one little motif on the shoe. But some of the prettiest shoes I've seen have actually taken the bridal laces and gone ahead and covered the shoe. Now those are some ideas for using the motifs. I have another special little bridal treat for you. What would a wedding be without a garter? And something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. In this case, we have made a really beautiful blue garter for the bride. Here is how you make it. This has 2 rows on it. Here is the silk ribbon I just butt it up, or actually overlap it, and stitch a little bitty narrow edging on both sides of one piece. And then the second piece, I put a little bit wider edging. Here is the two pieces I work with on the garter, one with the narrow edging, one with the wider edging. Then guess what I do? I put the narrow piece right on top of the wide piece, and I have that illustrated for you up here. You see, here's the narrow piece that's right on top of the wide piece, and sew two lines to attach the two garter pieces, and that makes my casing that I run the elastic through. And this is a beautiful blue garter for the bride, very easy to make and very special. I now have a doll who is all dressed up in lace, ready to go to the wedding. My doll looks just as pretty as a bride herself in her lace, white lace dress with pink slip and pink underlining. This little dress is so sweet. It has just, the whole thing is lace beading and lace insertion just butted together with a little lace around her collar and a little lace around her neckline. See how pretty the little sleeves are with just the lace insertion and the lace beading butted together. And even the skirt, which is gathered very full over the pink petticoat, just has the insertion and the beading. Now look, there are three little ruffles on this skirt. One little ruffle, you just gather the lace edging, zigzag it on. Another little ruffle, do the same thing, zigzag it on. And another little ruffle for the bottom. To make this little top, the little bodice, which has a pink underlining, look what I've done. I've simply, here are the rows that have all been zigzagged together. Then I trace off the bodice and put it over here and then stitch around it and then treat it just as one piece of fabric to make the bodice for the garment. Now you talk about easy sewing. This doll dress is easy sewing. It's called butt two pieces of lace together and zigzag the whole thing. Now the skirt, I have a long piece here, but the skirt, or rather this piece wouldn't be quite long enough. I'd have to make it longer. But the skirt is simply composed of butting the beading and the insertion and the beading and the insertion together. And then, of course, I pull the thread on the edging and make the little ruffles that go in three places on the sweet little doll dress. Now then, you see we have our doll all dressed for the wedding. And next I have one of the sweetest quilt squares that we've had so far for you. It is the Wedding Bell Quilt Square. This is one of my favorite quilt squares. It has a wedding bell with a bow tied at the top of the wedding bell. Look at the lace shaping. You put the pins on the large side, pull a string because there's a little bit of curve there, and see the little ding-dong part of the wedding bell. Look at there. It just is a little piece of lace that goes down to make the bell ring. And the bow at the top is a flip-flop lace, and it's a tied bow. Now, you know earlier in the show, or earlier in the series, I showed you how to do the lace shaping. Let me come over here and let's look at the bow that I have all pinned down here. I have the bell, all the different parts pinned down and ready to go. Now, before I sew on this bell, I need to put a stabilizer. In this case, I'm using a tearaway stabilizer. Now, I could do a machine wing needle entredot stitch, but to tell you the truth, this bell is so curvy, I think I'm just going to do a zigzag. And I have my zigzag set on, a 2.5 width and about a 1 length. And I'm just going to zigzag this bell, and you know what? I do have to come in here and pull the pins out. Thank goodness I have my little wrist pin cushion here. And I'm just going to zigzag and zigzag all the way around the curve, pull another pin out. And this will be a perfectly nice way to have this quilt square, to have the bell attached to the quilt square, and then just veer on around just a little bit. Actually, I could do a fancier stitch, but I kind of thought it would take away a little bit from the design of the bell. So I'm just using a simple zigzag to zigzag this down. Now I have to lift up the presser foot and go after that pin because I'm going around the corner. Do you see how simple it is to make lace shapes and then to attach lace shapes? All right, now that we've finished our wedding bell quilt square, I have another accessory for the flower girls in your wedding to wear that is our craft idea for today. I have an inexpensive and beautiful wreath for your little flower girl's hair for your wedding. The first version, let me just hold it up here and show you, is simply a purchased stem of flowers. You know, you buy a long stem of flowers, wrapped around, tied in the back, and then some ribbons attached at the back to go on your flower girl's head. I have another version of this. Let me show you a little more elegant version of that you make yourself. This particular version, which is ecru and is a little fancier and I think a little more elegant, is made like this. First of all, start with florist wire. And as you wrap the florist wire, as you wrap the florist tape around the florist wire, this is the same tape as the green tape that wraps around the florist wire. You pull it just a little bit and you wrap your wire and then bring it around. The next step, here are just some little purchased silk flowers. The next step is to wrap these little flowers around your wire, and you can even let some of them, you know, hang a little bit dangly if you want to, and then stitch them or glue them. After that, you pull it around and then use some of this wired ribbon. Do you see how that ribbon has wire in it? The wired ribbon, put another flower right here on the back, and then let your streamers hang down. The wired ribbon kind of curls up like little curls, and then your straight ribbon hangs down. And that makes another very elegant headpiece for your little flower girl. Now, isn't that a sweet way for your flower girls to come down the aisle? Next, I have a very, very nice home decorating idea for you, once again with a wedding theme. This wedding pillow incorporates all kinds of beautiful sewing techniques, which I'll share with you. And where I got the idea for the wedding pillow, this is a crazy patch. Now look, it has ecru, all different shades of ecru. And what I've done, I made this a wedding pillow for Joe and me. And I put the date of our wedding and the place of our wedding, an engagement party, rehearsal dinner, the honeymoon, Gulf Shores, Alabama, an ornament shower. I really, in each one of these crazy patches, built in a memento of Joe and me. So, and you could do it for your bride and groom. Let me show you how this pillow is made. First of all, you have the base fabric, which is linen. Now look here real carefully. I have traced off the design. These are flowers and leaves. And then I stitched the design, straight stitching only, in another color of thread. And that, on my real pillow, I did it in an ecru thread. Here is a good trick. Watch me carefully. Here is water-soluble stabilizer, which I drew off the heart in the center, put the water-soluble stabilizer. Now you can see I've already cut half of it away, so don't let that mislead you. But I put the water-soluble stabilizer down, stitched all the way around through the pillow and the stabilizer, and then came in here and cut away the inside of the heart. And guess what that gives me? A little lid, a lip you might say, to fold it underneath and get a really nice finished edge, making this heart almost like a picture frame. It has a finished edge. The next step then would be to do all of my crazy patching on the center section. Remember, that's where I put the wedding party and the wedding date and the whatever on Joe and me, but this one just shows you how to do crazy patch. And then I put the crazy patch piece, the heart, underneath this hole I have in the regular pillow, the heart hole, and I simply come around here and Madeira applique stitch. Remember, this edge is already finished because I folded it under with the solvay, and I have a nice picture frame, so to speak, there. I stitch in the crazy patch heart, and the final step is to gather the lace edging, pull the string, gather the lace edging, butt it up to the edge of the heart, and stitch it down all the way around the heart. One more final little neat trick on this pillow. You wonder where to use those beautiful decorative stitches? This is the way this pillow fastens in the back, and I've used decorative stitches and little satin buttons to close the back of the pillow. Let me show you on this pillow. Do you see the decorative stitching and the little satin buttons that close the pillow shut? Now we have another silk ribbon embroidery stitch to share with you. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today, Kathy Brower. Kathy is the embroidery editor for So Beautiful magazine. Welcome to the show, Kathy.
Thank you, Martha. Today I have something really fun to show you. It's called Cascading, and it's a way to twist the ribbons. I hope I haven't told you that any of these other stitches were my favorite, because this truly is my favorite, and it's so fun. Anything you do, with cascading will make any project you're working on look very Victorian and very elegant. Let me show you the sample I have for you. This is the quilt square that Martha has been showing you on the show on different segments. Here I've made the four loop ribbon first. I've silk ribboned and put my flowers and vines on top, and then I've cascaded the streamers in different directions. I'm going to show you how to do this really easy cascading. Okay. First, I've made a bow for you here with my loop stitch and a straight stitch, and I've come back up with just my streamers. And instead of making a bow, I'm just going to show you how to do the cascading. At your starting point, you'll just want to kind of twist your ribbon like that. Come a little ways. It's going to be like a really big straight stitch. Take maybe one little bite of your thread, of a thread in your fabric. Pull it very easy, and then just fluff up your stitches. Take another one in any direction. You can guide your cascading streamers around in a circle or any direction you want to. When you get to the end and you want to finish your cascading, you just simply cut it off at an angle and just let it hang there like I have here. Another good note is in here where you've taken the little stitches, you can either leave it that way or you can add a beautiful French knot or colonial knot to make it look like a little rose. It's just a wonderful stitch, Martha.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for sharing this beautiful cascading stitch. You know, I'm like you. That stitch just makes me happy. I think you know by now how much I love to collect antique clothes. I have a beautiful wedding dress from the turn of the century and the most elegant petticoat that went with it to share with you. So come along to my attic and I would like to show you some beautiful details. I'm so pleased that you could join me today in my attic. One of the most beautiful pieces that I've ever seen, I'm going to share with you now. I bought this dress in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. I really believe it was a wedding dress. Of course, it could have been a graduation dress also, but I really believe it was a wedding dress. The bodice of this dress is absolutely elegant, as you can see. The bodice begins with all kinds of narrow, they're not really double needle pintucks, because of course they did not have double needles around the turn of the century. But they're tiny pintucks, and down here are released pintucks. The trim around the bodice is a piece of insertion which appears to be Swiss, not French, and then a lovely French lace edging which goes around, and then there's a piece in the middle which has been stitched down, and other embellishments also. Let me turn the dress around to the back and show you how lovely the back of the bodice is too, very similar to the front, with these tiny, tiny, tiny buttons placed no more than an inch apart. Okay, let me go back to the front of this dress. The waistline is very unusual. It has little squares almost of tucks along with laces, and then I'm going to try to do justice to this skirt by holding it up, and you can see I have a couple of little tears in it which I'm going to repair, but I wanted to show this to you on the show. Look at the details on the skirt with the laces that are mitered up and down, all the way down. And then there are some little columns almost on this part of the skirt, which the laces go down and curve around and then come up. And then the bottom of the skirt, let me try to hold the bottom of the skirt out and show you it almost looks like squares going up and down with the mitering. Then I have a lovely bridal petticoat, which would have been the kind of petticoat that this bride would have worn under this dress. Now the detailing on this petticoat is at the bottom, and you can see the laces go almost in a triangle, one side, the other side, and across, and then there are pin tucks in between the lace triangles, and then here's a triangle that's upside down, and then just pretty lace trim on the ruffle of this petticoat. I thank you so much for joining me today on this special wedding show, and I certainly hope you can be with us next time.